Today, we are joined by Kit Morgan, best-selling author, but more than that, USA Today best-selling author who goes by Geralyn Beauchamp, which I know but couldn't remember today. She has 170 books and counting. So we're going to talk about that a little bit on top of tropes as how does one person write so many books? Historical, contemporary, romantic suspense, time travel with a twist, pure fun. So if you haven't read one of her books, please do. She's here out of the goodness of her heart. In the event, we have a link to one of her books that so it's Time Masters Book One, The All. And so yes, so go and buy her book just because she's here to talk to us. So we're super excited to have Kit. But before we get to Kit, I'm just going to tell you who I am. Christina Stanley. I'm the CEO and founder of Fictionary. I'm a best-selling author. I co-write books, Secrets to Writing a Series, Secrets to Editing Success, Secrets to Outlining a Novel, and Secrets to Writing a Fantasy. You get the gist there. I'm an award-winning author. I'm a structural editor. I said that already. And then coming up this year, Linda Wave. Linda and I are co-authoring Secrets to Writing a Romance, and then I'm co-authoring Secrets to Writing a Mystery with Lisa Taylor. And there's so many people here. I have no idea if Lisa's here or not, but that's who she is. We timed this event so that for those of you who don't know, we have this thing called Fictionary Live, and it's part of your Storyteller Premium subscription. So if you're interested in really deep diving into writing a romance, we have a course coming up starting February 13th. And hey, Linda, wave again. Linda is the instructor, and we go through 6 weeks to get you from the beginning of your novel to having an outline novel, or if you have a draft, to doing an after draft outline to see that you've met all the requirements of the romance genre. So there's links to that in the community. You can find it on our website at fictionary.co. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to chat with Kit. Where is Kit? There she is. Hi, Kit. So we're here to talk about romance tropes. And
Yeah,
yeah, so out of your 170 books, how many of your books are romance?
they are pretty much all romance, both pen names, but different genres of romance. I start book 181 this afternoon.
See
So
now,
I
you
go in
present.
and change that in my profile, 180 books and counting. I do it every 10 books.
Well, I guess, every 10 books, that's great. 10 books, fantastic. I've written 10 books, so, that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, you got to remember I've been doing this for 11 years. This is my full-time job for the last 11 years is being a novelist. So, but the book that Christine shared with you on Fictionary, Time Masters Book One, The Call, I wrote 30 years ago.
Okay.
That book is old. And that was on a dare from Julia Quinn. So, um,
Wait, pause that one moment. Who is Julia Quinn for those of us who
who
don't know?
is
Who is
Julia
she?
Quinn? Let's
Yes,
see, what's that series on
starts with
Netflix?
a B.
Bridgerton, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Julia. Yeah, Julie's a crack up. I just love her. I haven't seen her, talk to her for years, but she's one of those people you walk up to her at a book signing, she looks, you go, "Oh, hey, hi," because she remembers. She's
Nice.
one of
Yeah, and
those
so we all need
pals.
motivators to kickstart our career.
Yeah.
So let's first talk about. So we're all here to talk about romance, but really, I remember the first time I heard the word trope, and I was in a writing conference, and I thought, trope. What is this trope thing? I know, and I was too embarrassed to ask because everybody was nodding, and I'm thinking, I don't know what a trope is. So can we start with what is a trope?
Well, they are. Um, I've got different trope books, and one of my favorites is the Romance Writers Encyclopedia. They're written by Tara G. Erickson and Jessica Barger. And their explanation is tropes are building blocks to crafting your story. They are not the foundation of your story. So there's a big difference. Um, and there are all kinds of tropes. And I remember way back when I was first started writing Westerns, I read about a dozen because I wanted to see, what's this mail order bride stuff? Oh, that's a trope. Oh, who knew? I thought a trope was related to a turnip at one point. What is that? um, and some of them were good and some of them weren't so good. And ironically, some of them that weren't so good, I'm like, this writing's horrible, but I want to read another one. Why? It was because of the trope. Tropes are elements in your story that readers connect with. So in the case of these early historical Westerns, mail order bride trope, what was in there that was attractive was a setting trope. It was the setting. It was what I call the picket fence syndrome. It was a simpler time. It's pies cooling on the windowsill. It's, cowboys and ranchers, which are character tropes. So you've got four different tropes in a Western historical romance, right off the top.
Okay.
So you look at your own books and you look at the elements that you have in your book, whatever genre it happens to be, and more than likely, a lot of those elements are tropes.
Okay.
So,
So let's look at, give us a really specific example of a trope in a romance story.
well, you look at Pride and Prejudice, okay? Um, because tropes are elements, not the foundation. Your foundation is made up of your brilliantly developed characters, of course. And a trope serves the story on how to get that character through uh, conflict, complex situations, things like that, how to get their arc to go from one point to the next point. Pride and Prejudice, you've got this guy who just he can't stand the heroine at first, and he's arrogant, she's witty and stubborn. um, he goes from extreme dislike of her to literally ardent admiration in a setting of Regency England and all the proper society and the etiquette and the manners, and that's Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, enemies to lovers.
Okay.
The
Enemies
trope.
to lovers. There's a good one. Now, I want to ask you, sorry, my chat went up here. Sandra has a good question. Does something become a trope after it's repeated often enough in storytelling?
Yes, tropes develop over time as audiences connect with them. They can come in and out of fashion, so to speak. Classically back in the day, the damsel in distress was a big trope. It's developed into something different now, a little bit. It's touch her and die is, I didn't even know that was a trope. It's a trope. Um, Mafia books have that trope. Time Masters has that trope. Well, I'm like, I didn't even realize I was using it. That's just the character. That's part of who he is. Um, you've got all kinds of tropes or elements that are in books, stories, movies, all kinds of things. Even commercials have tropes.
Interesting. Okay. So in in your books, like when you're writing, how consciously, when you start a book, do you have tropes in mind that you're going to write about, or does it come to you? When does it come to you in your process?
Admittedly, okay, I am a intuitive writer, discovery writer, or a pantser. I'm a hardcore one.
That
I
made
can't,
Connie very happy.
I can't outline to save my life. And if Fictionary would have come along 10 years ago, I'd probably be a seven-figure author instead of a six-figure author because it's the only a method that for me I can work with.
Okay,
And
now I've
that's
got to ask you why. I mean, that's just setting
it's
me up there. I've got to
developing,
ask why.
it's the way you develop the five, the
Story
inciting
arcs.
in plot point one, middle, plot point two, climax, and just the way it's done. Um, that I love writing. I don't I write jigsaw, which means a lot of times I write the ending first. Some books I write linear, but a lot of times I'll write a scene here, write a scene there. I'll sometimes work on three books at once, this sort of thing.
Okay.
Um, but Fictionary has helped rein in my overly hyperactive creative brain, and it I can follow it. I can actually work with it. So I create my skeleton blurbs and all that fun stuff and go through the process of outlining only the five points. That's as far as I can do. I cannot
Nice.
outline anything else. If my gut says go this way, I'm going to go that way because it's never wrong. So, um, but then once the book is done, I go back into Fictionary, put it in there, and it's like a game show, and you're in the hot seat. You press that button, and it's like, oh, is it going to hit right on target or is it going to be off? Beep, a little shock if it's not right on target. Um, but it helps me to see, oh, okay, that is a little too early. Do I need to move that? And I love the tension conflict setting.
Mhm.
So I can go through, well, is there enough tension? Is there enough conflict? So that's what helps me edit. Um, and I have a little team of proofers that will let me know if it's not hitting the mark. And I can tell the books where I've used Fictionary and the books I haven't, their comments are different. Like, wow, I really love this one, or because it's hitting structurally where it should instead of for the most part, it's hitting
Right.
structurally where it should. So there's a big difference between the two.
Nice.
And
I mean, that just warms my heart because you're such an experienced author that I'd love to hear you say that you probably started using Fictionary at like book 150 or so.
no, well, it was last year, just last year. I wrote, okay, don't cringe, everybody. I wrote 18 books last year. Um,
Look at Connie. Connie's gonna faint now.
the
She
first,
can't
the
take the pressure.
first
Okay,
book
so wait,
I
we
worked
gotta.
on was Hespa, my Brides of Fiddler's Gap, Hespa book five, I think was the first time I used the Fictionary process with, the secret to outlining your novel. And I was there with that book in my pad, and I wound up with a lot of pages that look like this, messy, messy, messy.
Nice. Okay, so I got to stop you there because we're getting from lots of people here, Sandra, Carolyn, etc., Betty Jo. Okay, how? It's getting louder and louder in the chat. Did you write 18 books in 1 year?
Okay, dictation, folks, it's a beautiful thing. Um,
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. So if you're just doing the story arc outlines, do you start the dictation before or after you know what the story arc is?
I do this the I'll use the Fictionary story arc outline. I'll get those five things down. Mike, I've been here's another little secret. If you have any kind of a drama background or role play or it actually makes your writing go a lot easier. I used to work for Jenny Craig for 25 years. I worked for that company. You're working with thousands of people in 25 years. You have
Okay.
15 minutes to figure out what they need. So it's a lot of role playing. You have to put yourself in their shoes. So I can pop into a character's head in 5 seconds flat. I just give him what are his flaws, what are the quirks, and it just naturally rolls from there from years of what's called style fluxing. You have to become your client to understand where
Okay.
they're coming from.
Okay.
So that helps. Dictation.
Okay, so I want
Fiction.
to stick on the dictation for a second. So by dictating, are you using your phone, or do you have like what technology are you using to dictate?
I've used Dragon before years ago.
Okay.
I have, I'm in Northern California right now, caregiving for somebody, but I live in Oregon. I have a 20 acres with a cabin up there. It's the house I grew up in, and I'd walk the property with my laptop talking away. Occasionally, a neighbor would see me go, "What the heck is she doing?"
What's wrong with her?
Yeah. Um,
Okay, so Dragon is software that is taking your voice and typing.
Dragon dictate, but that's like old news.
Okay, old news on Dragon. Now what do you do?
Old news on Dragon. Now I use Scrivener mostly. I have all Mac products. Mac has Mac Whisper. I like to see what I'm dictating. I've done just flat out recording, but okay, I'm in my 60s, people. Things like menopause that eat your brain cells up in rapid, very rapidly. Talk, 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 talk. Stop because my phone is ringing. Look at it. Come back. Oh, what the heck was I just saying?
Okay, so you want to see it while you're dictating,
Right. I want to see it while
right?
I'm dictating. Recently, I just learned because I can dictate comfortably about 62, 65 words a minute, and that's with uh, punctuation, open
Wow.
quote, end quote,
Okay.
period, comma. Elena Johnson, also known as Liz Isaacson, who is, you want to talk prolific? Ooh, she's a beast. I don't hold a candle to her. But she had to get to a deadline. So she's got a cabin somewhere, went up to her cabin, and she hadn't dictated in years. She hated it. Tried it again, just recording using the app called Otter on her
Okay.
phone. And then she discovered that, and she wasn't saying punctuation, she was just telling the story. Occasionally she said, he asked, whatever. And then she discovered Chat GPT does a great job at putting in punctuation. And I
Ah,
went,
okay.
what? I never thought of that. So I went from 62 words to 98 words a minute,
Okay.
if not
Okay.
higher.
So let me stop you in that point. So you blah 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 into your phone. It was a dark and stormy night, and I ran
Yes.
down the street, whatever.
And I'm
Then you
still
put
doing
it in
it in
ChatGPT and
Scrivener.
go put add punctuation.
Yeah, you just say, hey, I dictated a block of text, and I'll write out a guide and you can post it.
Okay.
I have dictated a block of text for my romance novel. Be sure to tell them what genre it is. And I need you to add punctuation, fix any grammar. And sure, I can do that. It can only take about 13 words at a time. So copy and paste about
Right.
1,300 words, and it will put in all the punctuation. It formats it, and it saves me hours in
Yeah.
editing.
Okay. Nice.
And it saves my proofers. My proofers are like, wow, you're getting these books out faster. What are you doing?
Nice. Nice. Okay. So we have some questions sitting here, but I want to get back to tropes for a minute. Um,
Okay.
because really everybody here for romances talk about tropes. That was just my side journey of how are you writing so fast? What is your favorite romance trope and why? Or do you
Uh,
have one?
well, I don't really have one. My characters naturally develop them.
Okay.
Um, because because Kit Morgan writes mostly Western historical and contemporary romance. Of course, the main trope, they love mail order brides.
Okay.
They, which can go add more tropes. You can have secret identities, you can have secret babies, you can have secret siblings they haven't told the groom about. You can have rags to riches. You can have setting tropes. You can have character tropes. Character tropes are lawman, cowboy, rancher, different professions. There are whole book. I've got a reference list I'll give Christine to also I prepped for you. So,
Nice, nice. This is good. That
um,
means I don't have to do the work.
there's some
Fantastic.
wonderful books out there all about tropes. Um, and so in that particular genre, there's a lot of fun you can have. The book I'm starting this afternoon has emotional there's emotional tropes, internal tropes. It has a secret identity. It has he falls first.
Meaning he falls over or he falls for her.
He falls for her first. He's got baggage and a really bad stutter. And so she doesn't think she's worthy, so
Right,
the person with the secret identity, she knows he's not who he says he is. And so that's a strain. What happens when, Mr. Hero finds out? Then he's really not going to want me.
right.
And it has a subplot of our imposter in town is there to check out his estranged son, he's never met, whose book
Okay.
was several books before in the series. So there's different plots going on.
So that begs the question then, just what you said, there's different plots going on. So let's say you're using three tropes in a romance novel. Is there a story arc for each trope? Like, is there a beginning, something
There
happens?
can be. Yeah, mine, because after so many books, you just naturally do these things in your writing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's a story arc for the character with the secret identity. There's a story arc for the character whose story was several books prior, the son in this particular book. There's a
Right.
story arc for the heroine's development and her internal, her emotional trope.
Okay.
So there's
So
three
let's take
different
it
story
and
arcs.
we'll take it one. So you've got this story arcs. Does that mean then really you've got a subplot for each of those? One's your main and one the rest are subs, or are they really?
Well, there are elements. These are elements. There's character arcs for our imposter. There's a character arc for his son. There's a character arc for the heroine. The poor
Okay.
hero's just waiting for her to get a clue. So he's so well developed because this is book number 11. The readers all know him.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah. So these are elements, but they support and serve the character arcs. That's what the tropes do. Remember, they're not the foundation of the story. They serve the uh, content and complexities and the conflict. They
Okay.
help serve those things.
Okay, so then let's look at it from the other side. So we've decided in this book we're writing this afternoon with Kit is we're going to use three tropes, four tropes. Is there a risk in using tropes? Is there something that a writer should be careful of they don't just fall into?
Well, it's like baking cookies. Some people say you can't have, too many chocolate chips in a cookie. Well, if a person doesn't like chocolate that much, then that's not the cookie for them. So don't overuse the tropes. It's all about balance. And what it comes down to is you are creating a book or a story or a cookie for a person who's going to eat it. You're writing for your readers. They expect certain things from certain tropes.
Okay.
They have expectations. Um, my readers have expectations for my Westerns. They have expectations for my Time Master books. My Westerns are rated PG. My Time Master books are PG-13. I've trained them to know this.
Right.
So why are these characters all bloody and fighting? And oh my God, did he just kill that person? Yes, he did. It's because it's this author, it's this pen name and this genre and these tropes.
Right.
So it comes down to readers' expectations. You are creating this for them. Yeah, you can create it just for you. That's great. But if this is you want to make some money at this, you're creating it for them.
Right.
But you want to pick the tropes that you like, that you love, and the readers will follow because there's millions of people out there that love the same trope.
Right, right. I mean, that seems okay. So you were getting lots of stuff in the comments about everybody's listing tropes. So it's very interesting. Carrie wants to know how many pages are each of your books for average?
They vary. Okay, last year I wrote 18 books. Several of those were little novellas for multi-author projects or whatever. They were 20,000 to 28,000. My novellas are anywhere from 37,000 up to, I say, 50,000. Anything over 50,000 for me, I consider a small novel. Time Masters run the call, I'll warn you. It's like a 164,000 word book because and it has everything in it. It's you've got murder, you've got mystery, you've got mayhem, you've got romance, you've got suspense, and it all takes place in 1 week. So ticking clock is a trope.
Ticking clock. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, we all have to read that book and find the ticking clock trope and what it means.
My poor hero's got a week to do the impossible. Um, so it depends. I try for a certain word count every day. I have a group of author friends. We have a Zoom room. We will just go in and write together. It's like showing up at the office and you're in your little cubicle. We don't have to talk to each other necessarily. Sometimes we'll take breaks and talk, or somebody's got a question and they'll go, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I can't figure out where my character's going. Oh, okay. Give it to us. What do you need help with? It's showing up for work.
Right.
That is one of the drawbacks of being self-employed is you do get laxy-daisy because you can.
Because you can, because there's that extra cup of coffee or tea just waiting. So your
Right.
books are all different lengths. Do you vary the pricing on them then?
Yes. 30,000 and below is $2.99. So 31,000 to 50,000 is $3.99. 50,000 to say 72.75 is $4.99, and the rest are $5.99. I haven't gone over $5.99.
And see,
Um,
everybody's writing this down. These are like tech little details like this are really interesting. Okay, this is
yeah,
wonderful.
and it's when you're trying to build an audience, because I know there's a lot of aspiring and newer authors in Fictionary, you have an upper hand right off the bat because you are in Fictionary. And so you know you're going to develop a structurally sound book. It's giving you the tools to do the developmental edits on it before it ever goes to an editor. Um, you have an upper hand right off the bat. You figure out who your audience is, and then you start writing for them. And they'll start finding you. But when you learn where they are, you can go for them. Now, Kit Morgan's audience, I have a lot of 80-year-olds.
Uh-oh.
These people grew up watching The Virginian. And my books are Green Acres meets Gunsmoke because they're very comedic. They're lighthearted comedic with heartfelt moments, occasionally a little danger. Um, they're just good, clean fun. I call them, they're my like hokey little westerns. I can write them in my sleep. Time Masters, those books are a whole different deal. They're layers and huge cast of characters, and you've got action adventure, a lot more suspense. Some of them make you sweat. And that's what they're designed to do. That's actually what I love to write. Um, but know thy audience and go find them. They'll start turning up, and you build from there.
Okay. So I'm going to loop back to what we talked about a little bit earlier because I've missed some questions. Eclipse would like to know, do you use any method to character build? Do you recommend a character building method?
The Enneagram works great.
What?
The,
Spell that?
the Enneagram is based on 9 character types. Um, it's old. It's very old. It wasn't brought to the West until the 1930s, and they are still studying it. I actually used to use it at Jenny Craig because certain personality types would do certain things, and it bases it off of
Here it is
um,
in.
emotional or heart types, thinking or head types, and then gut or kinetic
Okay.
touch. And an example as far as eating is the heart type is watching the scary movie and talking out loud, going, "Good God, don't go in the attic. The killer's there. Where's my popcorn? I got to eat because I'm stressing out." That's the heart type. The head type is, "Oh, wow, they're going to go in. Oh, should I have some toast? Oh, I better put my clothes in the dryer. Did he just kill her?" And the kinetic type is snoring on the couch because they just ate a really big dinner they shouldn't have had.
Uh,
Just the television has lulled them to sleep. But there's a book, I'll have to find the title, I'll put it in the resource uh, list, that Claire Taylor wrote on using the writers using the Enneagram to develop characters.
okay.
And then there's uh, another Enneagram book written by Richard Rohr and another author that has the 9 emotional levels of maturity for each type. So level 1 is like, yeah, serial killer for this type, you know, and how, and you read it, you figure out your type, and you're going, oh my gosh, as I've gotten older, I've gone through all those stages. It's kind of freaky. For me, all those years of working with thousands of different people, I'm just like, all right, let's give them this quirk. I remember when I had that such and such a client with that quirk. Man, did that make her cranky. And I pull elements out of people I've worked with over the years and give them to my characters. And here's the basic storyline. Now I have my 5-point outline and to make sure I hit the marks and I just go.
Nice. Okay,
Now,
so when you say just go, Carolyn asked, what's your word count quota per day? Do you have one specifically that you try
I
and meet?
just I just upped it. 4 chapters a day is comfortable.
So what's
And as
that words? How many words?
it's going to range anywhere from 1750 to 2500. So 7,000 to 10,000 words a day. And what I've started doing is in
I just
Scrivener,
fainted.
Scrivener, you have the the dictation option, but I'm a keyboard freak. I have a collection. I love the sound of a keyboard. I love the different feel of different keyboards. So I'll dictate for a while, then I might dictate the dialogue and type the narrative. As long as it's fun for me, that time goes by lickety split. I do 12-minute sprints, 12 to 12 and a half minutes.
What do you do after 12 minutes? What happens?
Sometimes I just keep going. I have a watch. I'll just hit repeat and I'll just keep going. If my brain needs a little break, I'll stop, maybe get up and stretch, whatever. But at 625 words in 12 and a half minutes, that's a very comfortable pace. Now I can do it faster because I'm not
Okay.
saying, and I've learned not to type the punctuation, no quotation marks, things like that. Put it in chat and it just whips that right out. I'm like, yay.
Interesting.
Then when I read through it, I'm only doing cuts or let me expand on this description. That should be what color that dress is or, whatever. And it just makes the process go a lot faster.
Okay. I'm sensing a lot of discipline here and not a lot of time wasting in your life.
It's a job. You treat it like a job. I start at 9 a.m. and I work till 4.
Wow.
And I try to get emails and done between 8 and 9.
Right.
But then that writing starts and it I'll try to do hour to an hour and a half and then take a break, do lunch, whatever, take a walk, but then start back up again and do another hour and a half, 2 hours. I've learned that in the morning and later in the afternoon, my creative brain works best and also late at night. But I
Okay.
sleep late at night for reading because that's my guilty pleasure.
Yeah,
Dang it. I don't have time to read except in bed.
that's right.
And
Readings.
my other favorite thing to do with Fictionary now is buy the print book. I have an author I found that I absolutely love. And fictionaryize it. Ooh, where's their inciting incident? Where's their plot point line?
Oh.
Where's this?
Okay,
Where's
so
that?
Linda and Lisa are laughing like crazy right now because we're writing that, Secrets to Writing a Romance and Secrets to Writing a Mystery. And part of the research, it takes about a year to read enough of the books and highlight them and write all over them and put your yellow stickies in and go, all right, here's your inciting incident, plot point one, middle plot point, etc. And then pull it apart again and again as you end up reading the book, I don't know, 15 times before you actually have it fully figured out of what's the main plot, what's the subplot. And now we got to look at what are the tropes.
Well, and it's interesting because the first book I did it was a paranormal book that I read only because it was uh, recommended in a newsletter of another urban fantasy paranormal. I white westerns, but I love
Wait a minute. Urban fantasy
urban fantasy
paranormal.
paranormal. Um,
Okay, let's just
the
pull that one apart a second. So urban fantasy is
urban fantasy is set in a urban setting. You can have mythical creatures, you can have mythical races, but living in literally a urban setting with us. Either they're out in the open or they're in secret.
okay. So then you have urban fantasy paranormal. What just got added on top of this? We already have the
Yeah,
supernatural.
well, yeah. Urban fantasy slash paranormal, K.M. Shea. I love her books. They're good, clean fun. Um, she created the city of Magiford, which is supernatural beings living in an urban setting with humans. They've come out of the closet, so to speak. But you've got werewolves, you've got vampires, you've got elves, you've got everything in there. So she's got one trilogy that's werewolves. Werewolves are considered paranormal, but then she has another trilogy in the
Really?
same set of series. It depends. There's a fine line between the two.
Yeah. See, this is
Uh,
the genre blurring, right? That it's
yeah,
very
this is the
clear.
genre blurring.
You start
Um,
going down that line of
yeah. In the same universe, Magiford, City of Magiford is her universe that she writes in.
okay.
She may have a trilogy that's about wizards. She's got one involving the elves, but they all take place in the same city
Okay, so here's some
area.
setting based. And sorry, what's her name again?
KM, just KM initials, Shea, Shea.
Okay, there. So
I
everybody can look up her books.
I absolutely love her stuff, and she's got fairy tale retellings. She's got, but City of Magiford are loads of fun. You want to start with the Hall of Blood and Mercy, which is the hero is Killian, the heroine is Hazel. He's a vampire, she's a wizard. And she does slow burn. That's a trope.
Okay, and
And
what is the slow
well,
burn trope? Tell us what that means.
slow burn is they develop a relationship over time. She writes in trilogies, so it's 3 books per couple. That's the thing.
Okay,
And
and is it the
he
subplot?
doesn't,
Is it a subplot? So she's got a main plot and the slow burn is the
you've
subplot?
got main plot, subplots, plural.
Okay.
Um, and they don't kiss till like 3 quarters in book 3. And I still remember when he kissed her, it took me by surprise and I just went, "Wah!" And I never do that. Finally.
So it's almost a fantasy with a romance subplot. If you blend like all of paranormal and things into just
Yeah. Paranormal romance, urban fantasy.
okay,
Um,
urban fantasy paranormal romance is what the
there you
genre,
go. Add the romance, but the romance is slow burn. So
right?
it is secondary in the first and second books. By the time you get to the third books, now it's switching. It's
Okay.
it's romance. It's because now they're really looking at each other going, "Oh dang.
Hey, you're
You're
kind of
into
nice.
me.
I kind of like you.
I like you even though you have ears and tail. I don't care." And you howl.
Okay, so Julia says, is a trope smart but impractical female expert savvy protector like Bones? Is that a trope?
I have never watched Bones. However, Harlequin, who, by the way, if you ever wanted to write for Harlequin, they are searching right now
Yeah, they
for their
are.
love-inspired contemporary line and their love-inspired suspense line, which is their clean and wholesome faith-based lines. But they're doing an active search right now. They do suggest Bones as one of the television shows to watch for tropes, which
Really? Okay, good job,
I
Julia. Pull
have
that one
never
out.
watched it, but that is one of the shows they suggest you watch for if you're going to submit to their romantic suspense line.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. I've never watched Bones either, but now
I've
I
never watched it, yeah, so I can't.
that's homework. Homework for everybody. Go watch
Homework.
Bones and pull out the
But
tropes.
places like Harlequin want to see tropes in a book blurb. And here, this is a good little exercise for everybody to do is look at your book blurbs and how many tropes can you spot? If you can't spot any, you better put them in there because the readers are attracted to tropes. That's why on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, on a books page on Amazon in the A plus content area, they'll have a picture of a book cover with, you know, alpha male and a little arrow pointing to the cover and secret identity with a little arrow pointing, they'll have all the tropes listed because a lot of readers buy the trope. They like to see their favorite tropes listed and they'll start clicking.
Okay, so John has an interesting question. So, romantasy is a fantasy genre where romance is a lead plot line. Is that right?
Basically, it's like romantic suspense. The romance and the suspense have to be balanced. Romantasy, the romance and whatever else is going on is balanced. It A lot of romantasy books are done in trilogies. Currently, I'm reading L.J. Andrews. That's this book I held up. L.J. Andrews is very interesting because she started out as Emily Childs and she wrote sweet contemporary romance. She is one heck of a good writer. She started writing romantasy and she made $2 million last year.
Crazy.
Yep. And I read a few chapters, oh yeah, I can write that. Uh-huh, okay. And I set it aside. I thought maybe I should, tear this down and fictionarize it. And then I went back and I read the whole thing. And then it was like, I bow to the master. She's good.
Okay, now for those of us who missed it, give us the title of that book again.
Curse of Shadows and Thorns by L.J. Andrews.
Okay.
And there are 9 books in this trilogy, or each book is a couple, or each trilogy is a couple. And so she's got 9 of them.
Hmm.
And then I'm on book 6. I'm almost
You
done with
read as fast as
6.
you write.
No,
I was gonna say it's harder. Okay,
I
you're slower at
can
reading.
write a
There we
lot faster than I read because I don't spend
go.
all day reading. I was in Oregon because I had to take care of business up there, and I'm staying with a girlfriend because my sister, she turned my room into a storage unit. So she's reading her Kindle all day long, and I'm behind her typing away or go into her office and dictate. I just look at her and go, I'm so jealous. I'm so
But you're
envious.
not, though. You're not because you're writing and she's not. So Julia says, has anyone else read Ruby Row? Spicy romantasy. So yes. And the reason I'm pulling this one out, so Ruby Row is Sasha Black.
Gosh,
And
black.
Sasha Black is the very first Fictionary Certified Story Coach editor.
Is
So,
she?
yes, she is. And that's how I got to know her. And so I get to go on her
Oh,
podcasts and I've done a testimonial for one of her books. I'm actually mentioned in one of her books, her nonfiction books, not her spicy. romantic books, her
Uh-huh.
nonfiction books. I just love Sasha Black. So I wanted to call that out because Sasha's wonderful. Her writing is fantastic,
I'll have to read. I've not read her fiction. I've read her nonfiction, but
which
not
is
her.
great. Her nonfiction is great, but
Yeah.
her fiction is really it's fabulous. It's all a good read, and her books are quite different from where she started years ago to her newer ones, but all good. She's clearly um talented. And Linda met her in London. Oh, aren't you fancy? I
Oh.
didn't. Oh, she's how you know about Fictionary. Okay, then, Julia, that makes sense. It's a small world. Yes, that's our Sasha. Okay, we have 10 minutes left for burning questions for a Kit. I'm still stuck on how many books you write. I don't even know where the story ideas come from that I don't know.
Actually, I there's another little. I have a relation coach. I'm a certified relationship coach, life coach, and I wanted a side gig while I worked for Jenny Craig. I just found another platform to work off of. So sometimes I'll sit down and what do I want to share with people based out of something from relationship coaching? Say a big one that I share is, and my readers take it to heart, is when you're in a partnership with someone, you need the three L's. You have to love them, you have to like them, and you have to be in love with them. And I have a character that tells her sons, you keep those in your pockets, boy, and you'll be okay, because there's times you won't feel like you're in love with them, but at least you love them and you like them. Or you may not like them, but you love them and you know you're in love with them. Or so even if one is faltering, the other two are always in operation. And that's actually something we used to teach relationship coaching clients, to make
Nice.
sure you have all three when you're in a relationship, or don't marry that person. Just rethink it. There might
I
be
think
issues
it.
that come up. So, and what are those types of issues, and how do you overcome them? So I'll have my characters with that issue and have them overcome it, even though it's in a historical setting or a time travel setting or
Excellent.
whatever.
Okay, so Teal has a hard question. Do you have any tips for editing?
Editing. Okay. I hate to say it, but Chat GPT for punctuation, at least. Um, for developmental editing, Fictionary. Use that tension conflict uh, section. And a big thing writers do, even I've written 100 and some odd, almost 200 books, I still do it. We're repetitive people. Didn't I just say that a paragraph ago? Oh,
Yeah.
golly gee, I did. Cut. And when you're editing, talk out loud, and you'll see, oh, I'm really wordy there, or oh, I did just say that back here, or wait a minute, didn't I just read back here that he did this and now he's doing that? That makes no sense. When you hear it, it sticks better, even if you're just whispering.
Okay.
Because when we read, we get caught up in our own story, and that's how we miss so much stuff that needs to be
Yep.
fixed. So talking out loud helps
Read
you
out
catch
loud to your pet. Pets love it. Your cat will purr, your dog will
anything.
wet it. That's what I do. You just read out loud. The pets always listen, and they always think your writing is fabulous. So it's a really good thing to do. So John has a good question. Where do you draw the line between what is a subgenre and what is a trope?
Again, tropes are elements to get your character where they need to be. Um, Subgenre is to me, that's a different subject. Uh, you can, of course, have, do a mashup genre. I've done mashups between two pen names, Kit and Geralyn. And so I have my time travel characters, including aliens. That's the twist in the mashup books. They're time travel with a twist. Not everybody's human. Um, in a setting trope, time travel, aliens, setting, in a historical setting, fish out of water that instantly puts in that trope. Um,
Oh, so that makes me think of a good example for this. So if your genre is mystery, then the fish out of water could be a detective who comes from a very small town and then is stuck investigating in New York City and
mhm.
doesn't know how to work there. So the fish out of water is the trope of her being, uh-oh, I'm in big city and I don't know how to cope here. And the genre
Right.
is it's a murder mystery and she's detecting
Right.
the mystery.
Yeah. So that trope not really a subgenre. Um, some what he's asking, I can see now, is there are some tropes that actually are a genre, like time travel.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But maybe in your example, it's a mystery thriller, but the fish out of water is because he did time travel. It's a trope, but also now it's a subgenre.
It's genre blending, trope blending. It's art, and so it's
Yeah,
very
if
difficult to
we
draw
had
a
something to
distinct
help
line.
us with plot weaving, we could work this out
Hey, hey, we
while
could
we're
try something like
while
that.
we're preparing our book. Hint,
So Mary
hint.
Jo would like to know, with so many stories, how do you keep the next one fresh? So you're about to start a story. How do you keep that fresh now this afternoon after we've all been grilling you?
Okay, I write episodically. It's like a television show. My series literally are like watching a television show. So it's a new predicament for the next set of characters. It may still be the same tropes, but like for instance, this book I'm going to start writing this afternoon, what I put in it to make it fresh is I'm bringing in that one character's father, and he still can't quite wrap his head around, oh my gosh, I've got a son. What do I do? I what if he doesn't accept me? What if? And my father is a retired sea captain who's still thinks he's at sea now and then. So he's kind of a nutcase. And so he's posing as somebody else, but he's just he just can't quite bring himself to do it. That's my fresh take for
Okay.
this story is I have built a universe. My universe has 5 different towns in it in the historicals. It's got so many families and stuff. I had to find a way to extend the life of my elderly some of my elderly characters because my readers couldn't stand the thought of them dying. So I mixed them up with my time masters, and now they got an extra 200 years apiece, these 6 elderly characters. Um, so it definitely create a universe if you write a lot of series and things like that, because you can play so much in it and try so many fun different things, and your readers will love it.
Okay, so the next question is, do you see tropes as character and or plot tropes?
Okay. There are so many.
Evil laugh.
That is my evil laugh. Get ready, gang. There are romance tropes, internal tropes, external tropes, character tropes, fantasy book tropes, Western books tropes, horror tropes, science fiction, paranormal, setting tropes. There are hook tropes. There's backstory tropes. This is that reference list I was going to give to Christine.
Yeah, we're gonna need that. I can
You're
see.
going to need it.
I can't remember that many things.
Yeah, like I say, there are hundreds of tropes. Uh, Mystery thriller have they a big trope is setting. Cozy is on the rise, not just cozy mystery. I write cozy. They're fun, comfy, feel good,
Okay,
little
you have to
adventures.
define cozy now. Tell us what cozy is in
Cozy
your mind.
cozy fantasy is on the rise, for example, instead of high stakes fantasy or romantasy, it's low stakes. somebody's sheep herd got stolen and the town is trying to, or the village of Crystal Hollow is trying to solve the mystery and who the culprit is. And we're having lots of tea. It's Lord of the Rings and you never leave the Shire.
Okay. Perfect.
That's that's one of the best ways to sum it up. It's an atmosphere you create. It's the village, it's the tea house, it's, this and that. Alex Newton is doing a talk with Brian Cohen in 1 minute. And he did a cozy fantasy report recently. If you've never heard of K-lytics, Alex Newton is the data guy in our industry. He researches trends. He's doing his talk with Brian today on it, and they do record it, thank goodness, on what's trending for 2025. And he's got his thumb on all of this information. And he puts out reports, data reports he just did one on romance. And I just got the newsletter today for epic fantasy. They're a little spendy. They're $47 for the report, but boy, are they worth it. And it tells you how these are doing in subcategories, subcategories, the average page length, how they do in short reads, what's making them, how are they performing against other genres, things like that.
Nice.
And, yeah, and K-lytics is K-lytics.com.
Okay. Alrighty. So we're 2 p.m. on the nose, and clearly Kit wants to go to a another event where she's just listening in. I've just put Kit's book link in the chat so that everybody can see it. Clip says this has been amazing. Yes, it has been amazing. It is recorded, so it'll be up tomorrow in you know, in the community is what I'm trying to say. Kit, that was fantastic. Super great insights. Really fun to talk to you about it. Lots of things to learn, maybe too much to remember, but I am looking forward to you sending us the extra tidbits. And then
I will
also,
send that. Yeah. And there's a workshop Jennifer Hilt, who wrote the Trope Thesaurus, is putting on in March, and she's taking signups now. So I'll
okay,
put this in there. So I just got the newsletter on that this morning.
nice. Yay.
How timely.
All kinds of good stuff. Yes, Sandy says lots of info to absorb, but fun info, and it's really exciting to see so many people here and who are interested in romance and tropes and really great stuff. So again, thank you, Kit. Super appreciate you coming out of the goodness of your heart just to help us all get better at writing.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, bye everyone.